What's with the dark part of the screen? So weird. I hope you can ignore that. I don't know what the heck that is. So random. Anyways, greetings. Much like my Tom and Jerry Tales Season 1 review I did a few months ago, this will be one of those where, since I have like 39 episodes to cover, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about each individual segment. I mean, given that each of them individually are only like 7 minutes, yeah, this isn't exactly going to be that long. Still, though, despite that, I hope you're able to still enjoy the review. And with that, let's get going. 1. Garfield, peace and quiet. Garfield wants to sleep, but Binky the Clown won't let him. This is the first episode, and honestly, we start things off with a 3 out of 5. Pretty basic opening, honestly. What's there to really explain about this one? It's the basic character, what is bothering other character episode. There's not a lot about it that really stands out to me. A lot of it, I was kind of just watching this one being like, oh, okay, this exists. In terms of like good jokes, I thought Garfield's TV coma at the beginning was a little funny. You also have Garfield pretty much saying that the old lady will die if she hears Binky's thing is also funny. There's also the whoever thought of this should go pull out into the street and shot joke, which was in one of the specials. I would know since I reviewed the specials a few months ago. So even though it is a reused joke, I can't deny it's still funny, even it when being reused for this show. But yeah, 3 out of 5, not bad, but also doesn't have a lot about it that really stands out and makes me really want to rewatch it. 2. U.S. Acres, Wanted Wade. Wade the duck rips a tag off a pillow and worries about getting in jail. Okay, so unlike Garfield, which is such a universally basic character that we all know who he is, I actually have to explain U.S. Acres. Okay, so the reason why for episode 1 I said Garfield before saying what the title was because the way Garfield and Friends format works is that it has 3 segments. The first and the final are Garfield, but the middle one is U.S. Acres. Now I know what you're thinking. What the fuck is U.S. Acres? And that's what I'm here to explain. Okay, so U.S. Acres was made by like the same guy who made Garfield. Pretty much all you need to know is that it's about a bunch of farm animals. Orson the pig, kind of the main character, especially since in other places of the world the series is called Orson's Farm. Orson's kind of the basic nerd one. He's kind of the main character and the kind of the everyman. Wade the duck, who's the main character of this one, he's afraid of everything. Roy the rooster, the trickster. Booker, a little chicken. His brother Sheldon, who's just an egg with legs. He's that weird guy in the thumbnail. And then you have the twin sheep, Bo and Lamela. Bo's chill. Lamela, she is grumpy. And that's it. That's the main 7. These segments are pretty much just them living on a farm together. Usually due to this show was made during like the late 80s, which is when shows kind of had to be more educational. So these segments are usually here to teach us about things and always have a song in them. But how is Wanted Wade as the beginning of these characters' journey? It's also a 3 out of 5. Honestly, there's not a ton to say about this one. Wade overblowing, like the idea of him ripping a tag off a pillow and anything about how extreme it'll be, was a little funny. But other than that, just kind of okay. I know, all that explanation for pretty much nothing. I apologize. 3. Garfield goes Hawaiian. Garfield gets the Hawaiian disease. 4 out of 5. First good one, and honestly, it's because the idea is so weird, they honestly make it work. Don't have much else to add, honestly. This was just a funny one. I actually laughed during a lot of these moments, and I think it's because the basic idea of it is just funny to me due to how random it is. It's that good middle line where it's random and that's funny, but it's not just random equals funny. There's like a difference, you know. There's a certain level to how funny something being random is, and I think this one hit the mark where it's random, but it's not too random to where it's just stupid. You know, it's difficult to explain, but all you gotta know is I liked this episode. Garfield, box O fun. Garfield plays with a box. This is just that one special. I'm saying that one special because I forgot the name. But you know the one if you've seen my Garfield specials review. The one with Garfield and Odie and like that Indiana Jones parody. This is pretty much that condensed into 7 minutes. Same basic concept, just Garfield and Odie messing around with their imaginations, but this was still pretty good. It's a 4 out of 5. It was just really creative, honestly. Given that I'm the type of person who is kind of like a dreamer, a daydreamer, like I imagine things, this episode honestly kind of hit a little close to home. I don't necessarily put myself in these situations, but I do randomly. But when I'm like in class or something, I do randomly think of like random scenarios and stuff. So I do get. So this is actually kind of a relatable episode. Pretty good, pretty enjoyable. 5. U.S. Acres, unidentified flying Orson. Orson reads a zombie book, and Roy makes him believe it's real. This is the first in a series of U.S. Acres episodes that are pretty much just Roy tricks everyone into doing stuff. This time, Roy tricks Orson somehow, which is weird. I guess, I mean, this is only the second U.S. Acres episode, so I'm assuming that they haven't gotten Orson's personality down correctly. Or maybe, despite reading all that a lot, Orson still isn't the smartest. Look, Wade, yeah, he's afraid of everything. It makes sense Roy can trick him, but Orson, I don't know, felt a little weird. Don't have much to say, though. It's a 3 out of 5. Roy just tricking everyone was a little funny. And I did like the way Lamela was able to trick Roy and kind of show himself for being a prankster, or at least being the one to prank them. But other than that, this one was kind of just okay as well. They do that generic twist where it's like, oh, turns out there actually were aliens, but no one knew. And that was just kind of meh. 6. Garfield, school days. Garfield goes to obedience school. Don't have much to say. 3 out of 5. It's okay. Had its moments, but mostly just kind of there. A shame because it feels like a really good situation for Garfield as a character to be in, but the actual quality of it just wasn't up to snuff, you know? Don't ask me why I said it like that. I'm pretty much improving all these videos, if you couldn't already tell. 7. Garfield, Nighty Nightmare. Garfield gets a nightmare that he won't stop eating. I actually love this one. A 5 out of 5. This, just like Tom and Jerry Tales, this might not be the first series you think of when you think of something that gets a 5 out of 5, but I truly did think this was a great episode. To be fair, though, okay, so now I have to explain some of my history with Garfield and Friends. Me and my brother had a DVD of the show. I'm pretty sure my brother still owns it. We and on the DVD had a few different episodes. This was one of the ones on that DVD, and I still vividly remembered it. That was part of why I did want to rewatch all this show, partially to remember those episodes and to see all the ones I obviously missed because the DVD had a very limited amount of episodes. But it was cool getting to see this one again. And again, given the fact I'm giving it literally the max rating, I think it still holds up. Just a great episode, honestly. I still loved it. Not even going to explain much about it. Yeah, sure, it's a dream, but hey, at least they let us know in the beginning it's a dream instead of just having the whole adventure and then at the end be like, oh, it's all a dream. None of it's not canon. It's all not canon. But yeah, I still love this one. Call it nostalgia, and I'll say it sure is, but I don't care. If you are so inclined, make your own Garfield and Friends season 1 list. It's not even a threat. Please actually give me one. I'm desperate. I'm desperate for any type of social interaction with these shows I've spent all these months of my life reviewing. Go. U.S. Acres, Banana Nose. Roy gets made fun of for having a long nose, so he runs away. No, man, 3 out of 5. Honestly, the probably the best of the U.S. Acres so far, but that's really not saying much. Honestly, the 3 in, and the problem I have with these U.S. Acres ones specifically is that due to them kind of being forced to have like a song, because these are already 7-minute things, so already you gotta waste time on a song, which so far the songs have not been hitting, honestly. They just kind of existed. Like they're not bad, but it's also like, eh. Like no one's gonna. I'm not gonna be singing the U.S. Acres Banana No song. Just casually in my room. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's because they kind of have to be at least somewhat educational, and like the characters kind of have to. I don't know. There's something about them, like there's something off about them that I feel should prevent them from being overly funny or entertaining. But still, at least I usually still respect and agree with the messages because obviously they're for kids. But I just can't see myself really wanting to rewatch any of them so far. Maybe there's a few good U.S. Acres later down in the season 1 journey. I would know since I've already seen all of them, but I like pretending. 9, Ode to Odie. Garfield makes a song about Odie. Weird 7 minutes, but a good 7 minutes. 4 out of 5. Garfield, Freddy Cat. Episode 10, Garfield, Freddy Cat. Garfield and Odie get terrified by a monster movie. Okay, so there's another Garfield series called like the Garfield Show. It's the 3D one. That's all I'm care enough to explain about it. I watched that one a bit as a kid because it was on Netflix, and I'm pretty sure they also. And I didn't watch the Garfield and Friends one until literally now for this review. But the Garfield Show also had an extremely similar episode about Garfield and Odie thinking John was going in their house and they're trying to kidnap them. I think I actually prefer the Garfield Show one because this was like a 3 out of 5. This one felt kind of generic. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about this one, honestly. Again, another one that's just kind of there. I think 3 out of 5 episodes might honestly be the hardest ones for me to review because it's like, yeah, I can sit down and watch through it, but at the end of the day, do I really want to? Is there anything really to talk about? Like trying to even looking through the favorite moments I had, Garfield screaming like a lady was funny. Garfield eating all the food in the house so the monster won't have it. That was also funny. So there's like a few good jokes in here, but other than that, it's like, eh. Like you could watch her once and get these good jokes in it, but other than that, there's no real reason to even return to it. 11 U.S. Acres, Shell shocked Sheldon. Shell shocked Sheldon. Orson tries to hatch a Sheldon out of his egg. Okay, thanks for proving me wrong, U.S. Acres. This is a 4 out of 5. I actually liked this one. I think it avoids the usual issues that U.S. Acres episodes run into. This one felt like it just actually had a clever idea, using Sheldon, whose whole shtick is that he never comes out of a shell, and being like, what if we just do an episode kind of explaining it, or at least talking about it? That's what they did, and I'm glad they did, because it ended up actually being enjoyable. The I like how Wade and Roy were just constantly talking about their baseball game from the opening, and they won't shut up about it the whole episode. I thought that was funny. And the twist, and the, I guess, kind of twist ending was also funny to me. So yeah, actually good. Let's hope U.S. Lakers can continue being consistently good from here. 12. Garfield. Nothing to sneeze at. Garfield is sick while John tries dating Liz. Man, this is a 3 out of 5. And I'm super torn on this one. On one hand, there's some good jokes in here. But on the other hand, I just feel bad for John the whole episode. Like Garfield is forcing his way into all that, is forcing his way into the state, despite being a cat and despite being sick. I just end up feeling bad for John the whole time. But then again, there's still some funny moments here, so it's like I can't rate it too low because I still get comedic value out of this one. So I thought a 3 was the best place to put this thing. So yeah, maybe if you watch the episode, maybe you can like see your thoughts on it. But for me, I don't know, I'm kind of mixed on it. 13. Garfield's moving experience. Garfield tries to get a new life before realizing how bad it is. 4 out of 5. This one is kind of the typical character thinks they have it rough, goes to a different place. Uh-oh, it's even rougher. But honestly, here's my thing. Even if it's a reused idea, as long as you have at least something, or at least some sort of, at least if you have a good execution, then there's a better chance that I'll enjoy it. And that was true here. I could still say I like this episode, even despite it being a reused concept, because I think it was done well. It was handled decently enough. Don't know much else to say, honestly, other than I thought it was a pretty good episode. Maybe it's because Garfield is just a good character. So in an episode like this, sometimes his character is able to shine through and really make it enjoyable for me. I also found the ending where he just goes back to that second life really funny. It was a funny twist on the usual formula for these types of episodes. U.S. Acres. Wade, you're afraid. Orson gets Wade hypnotized into being braver. Wade being brave was like a little funny, but the episode barely spends any time on it, so it just kind of feels like it's all meaningless. This one feels like it should have had more like space to really flesh itself out. 3 out of 5. Sorry about that. 15. Garfield. Good mousekeeping. John's house gets a mice infestation. Don't have much to say. 4 out of 5. Solid without being anything spectacular. I've always liked the character trait that Garfield just doesn't like mice. It's always been a kind of a permanent thing with this character, and it's always been something I enjoyed. Sure, it's kind of obvious, but hey, I still find it enjoyable. It's a cool little quirk of his. We also get introduced to, I believe, Lou is the name of the mouse. It's probably not. I'm probably gonna look so dumb when I eventually find out what his real name is, but still, I like their kind of friendship, even if the mouse kind of betrays them by letting all his mouse brother and his sister in and go and crash at John's place. Still a good episode though. 16. Garfield Identity Crisis. Gaslighting the episode. Oh man, I can't believe I was right. That mouse's name was what I said earlier. The one I said that I now forgot. It totally was correct. And I was kidding. The mouse's name is Floyd. Notice how I gaslighted you, which is the whole theme of this episode. No, this is a 5. I love the hell out of this thing. It is the funniest 7 minutes the show's provided to me. Maybe so far. Maybe there's a funnier one later. But for now, this is easily the best season 1 episode. It is so funny to me how they just gaslight this dog catcher. I know most people probably don't care this much, but I don't care. I find it really funny. Like on one hand, I feel kind of bad for the dog catcher, but on the other hand, like bro, be catching dogs. I don't really feel bad. I love dogs. I don't want them to be caught like that. I also just like the idea of animals just casually doing impressions of each other. That's just funny to me. Maybe it starts a little slow, but once it gets going, it really gets going and becomes something truly hilarious. I love this one. I don't even have anything else to say about it. If you only allowed yourself to watch one episode, or at least or technically one segment, this is the one I recommend the most. It is hilarious. 17 U.S. Acres, bad sport. The crew play pig ball, but Roy changes the rules to make it funny. Don't have much to say, honestly. 3 out of 5. Another one where Roy just kind of tricks them for an episode. Not much else to add. Heck, most of Roy's changes felt like annoyingly kid friendly. Look, I'm not expecting the show to be like super adult or anything, and I'm not the type of person who overly loves like edgy stuff. Not that I can't like some edgy stuff, but it's also like not always my favorite thing. So I don't always need every show to have it. But like, come on, Roy's changes were like way too kid friendly and PC. It wasn't even funny. Oh well, and poor Wade couldn't even use the hippo he somehow got. 3 out of 5. This one was kind of generic. One of the weaker ones. 18. Garfield up a tree. Garfield gets stuck on a tree. 4 out of 5. What? Look, I still have like 20 more episodes to review. I don't have much. I don't have much to say on every episode. Just know I liked it. Garfield number 19. Garfield weighty problems. Garfield tricks the scale into making John seem fat, so John goes on a diet. 3 out of 5. 7 minutes of okay weight jokes. Have nothing more to add. 20. U.S. Acres, the worm turns. Orson tells us the story of why Booker stopped chasing worms. Oh, but by the end of the episode, Booker goes back to chasing worms, though. So even within the own episode, they can't keep the status quo change. I don't know, man. This one was a 2 out of 5. Honestly, the first mediocre episode, and honestly, whole explanation, it's just really mediocre. I really did not care for this thing. I just could not be bothered the whole time. I honestly have nothing else to say really, other than this one was just really boring. And I just, and again, maybe it's because the episode just, even the episode itself ended with Booker and the worm just chasing each other again. That made everything feel so pointless. Not to mention, the first few minutes were like completely unrelated to the rest of the episode, which made it feel even more like this was just a filler one they made. Which is crazy because there's only like 13, only 13 of these 39 episodes are U.S. Acres. So you think it would make more sense for like a Garfield one to be filler, but no. Fun fact: did you know originally Jim Davis, the Garfield and U.S. Acres creator, he originally only wanted to make a U.S. Acres show and was kind of forced into making it mostly about Garfield. Funny considering obviously the Garfield ones I've been enjoying way more. Garfield, good cat, bad cat. It's the angel demon trope for 7 minutes. 3 out of 5. Some funny jokes, but a lot of it's also just kind of meh. That's it. 22. Garfield, cabin fever. Garfield and Odie get trapped in a cabin. Okay, I had my whole spiel on what happened before, but on those past few, but this one was genuinely really good. 4 out of 5. Again, I think sometimes the characters are able to like save something, and I think this is a good example of it. Garfield and Odie just being stuck in a cabin without food is such a naturally just. It's a good premise, and because of that, the writers are able to just make it naturally funny based off that. Have nothing else to say, really. Just a really funny episode. And poor Odie, he was trying to lead Garfield to food almost the entire episode, but Garfield just wouldn't listen. Though, to be fair, I'd probably end up accidentally doing the same thing if my pet dog was trying to lead me to food. So I can't be too hateful. Plus, Garfield's still just a cat, guys. You can't be too mean to a cat. '23 U.S. Acres, Return of Power Pig. A misunderstanding causes everyone to think there's a monster. Honestly, you know what? A 4 out of 5. Sure, this episode's kind of just follows the regular U.S. Acres formula of trying to tell us a lesson, but this is one rare time where I think they actually did it, and where it was actually entertaining while still teaching us a lesson. And it's always nice when educational stuff is able to still be entertaining. It was honestly kind of funny just seeing everyone just gaslight each other accidental gaslight, and just thinking of there's really a monster. I'm It's been a hot second, but I'm pretty sure this is another one where it is just Roy pranking them. But again, it's executed so well that I don't mind if it's a trope, if it's a type of episode we've seen before. If anything, they did it better than the past ones. So yeah, good episode. I actually enjoyed it. Don't have much else to add. Garfield, fair exchange. Garfield and John have a shared dream where they switched roles. Another 5 out of 5. Much like the one from earlier, this was on that Garfield DVD me and my brother used to watch all the time. So again, much like the other one, there's a good chance there's some decency, but there's some nostalgia bias. Exact opposite of recency bias. Why was I saying that? But again, I don't care. My list. I find Garfield on John's body and John and Garfield's body extremely weird, but in a really funny way. The only problem I have with it is I don't think John really learned anything. Like they try to make it seem like both of them have had rough lives, and they really just need to go back to themselves. But when John had his part where he dreamed about being like Garfield, he barely suffered any consequences till like the very end. So I felt a little unfair. Now, well, am I thinking too much into a Saturday morning show? That's what I've been spending the last 28 minutes doing, but I'm still doing it. Gosh, diggity darn it. 25. Garfield, The Binky Show. Garfield goes on a game show hosted by Binky. 4 out of 5. I like it. I really don't like that the whole thing was admitted to just be a dream at the end. I think it would be funnier if Binky just had this demented game show, but if you ignore that ending, the rest of it's still good. Excuse me. 28. U.S. Acres Keeping Cool. Bo tells Orson to be cool while his mean brothers visit. Another solid one, 4 out of 5. Again, I liked the lesson taught in this episode, and it was done in an entertaining way. Bo and Lamela are like the lesser used members of the U.S. Acres gang. And that's a shame because I think both of them are decent characters, especially Bo. I like how chill he is with about everything. And this is pretty much a whole episode about that, so I like it. Also, Orson's 3 evil brothers end up becoming like reoccurring villains, so I guess it's good that we established them. So yeah, solid episode. 27. Garfield, don't move. Odie moves in this episode. Okay, this one's weird. The first few minutes almost feel like a parody on like how some of the U.S. Acres episodes can be sometimes, because it's just Garfield teaching Odie all this stuff, all this real world stuff. like how smoking is bad for you, and now you should wait to cross the sidewalk. It was weird. But then after those first few minutes, the episode got a plot and felt more like a regular episode. With the joke being that Garfield tells Odie not to move, but then all this random stuff happens that causes Odie to move. So again, it makes it weird on where I should put this one, but in the end, I think the higher end of a 3 is a good rating for this one. Since this is usually a trope I actually like watching, but man, those first few minutes really make this thing such a bizarre experience. So 28, Garfield Magic Mutt. Garfield battles a magic dog. Don't have much to say. Really funny episode, 4 out of 5. I recommend it. 29, U.S. Acres. Short story. Booker wants to prove that he's useful, and he gets his moment when Orson's brothers attack. Man, another 4 out of 5, man. These US Acres have been hitting more. It's like they're actually trying to understand, like, into a groove. Again, yeah, we're being taught a lesson, but it's done in a fun enough way. I One specific really funny moment I just thought of was when Orson's brothers were telling them, like, why should we let you out? And then Wade's like, oh yeah, I can't think of any reasons. Okay. And so that was just a really funny moment to me. Don't know what else to say, really. Good episode. Also, don't worry, Booker. As someone who's well over 6'5", or is at least somewhere around that range, I can tell you being tall definitely is not always the best. So you don't gotta worry about that, champ. 30, Garfield Monday Misery. Garfield deals with Monday. 7 minutes of Garfield hating on Monday and 7 minutes of a good time. I like this episode, 4 out of 5. 31, Garfield Best of Breed. Garfield goes against Normal in a cat show. Don't got much to say about this one. I thought it was okay, 3 out of 5. Normal has shown up in a few episodes now. Well, this isn't his first appearance. Also, there's no way I was the only one who always thought Normal was a girl, right? In this show especially, they gave Normal such an objectively female voice, but nope, Normal, even in this show, is apparently a dude, and that weirds the hell out of me. Still, admittedly, I'm not the biggest Normal fan. Normal's one of those characters where, like, the characters around him can be funny, but Normal himself doesn't interest me, so maybe that's why I'm giving this one a 3. Still not bad, though. It has its moments. 32, U.S. Acres, National Tapioca Pudding Day. Roy creates a holiday to mess with Orson. Honestly, just a worse version of that one where Roy gaslit everyone into thinking that there was a monster. 3 out of 5. Garfield, all about Odie. Garfield talks about Odie. Honestly, 2 out of 5. For a Garfield episode especially, this one was really lazy to me. I shouldn't say lazy, but just I didn't find it all that funny. It's just kind of Garfield talking to the audience and just about how Odie is, especially his tongue. And most of it was just really boring. Like, I know how Odie is. I've been watching this. We're almost at the end of the season at this point. I didn't need a whole episode about this. Admittedly, the pie chart joke was funny, but other than that, there's really no reason. This is one I should have recommend people avoid. This one was boring. Okay, since we're towards the end, I'm just kind of gonna speed through some of these. 34, Garfield, Caped Avenger. Garfield tries to find his Pookie Bear. This one's the generic character thinks something's happening when actually it's all in their head trope. And again, just kind of meh. I liked all of Odie's different costumes, but other than that, there's not a ton about this one I really care for. 3 out of 5. 35, U.S. Acres, Shy Fly Guy, Wade Wants to Fly. That rhymed a little bit. I don't know. Ironically enough, like all three of the favorite moments I wrote for this episode all involved Roy. So Roy was good in this episode, but other than that, kind of generic. Nothing else to say. 3 out of 5. 36, Garfield, green thumbs down. John tries gardening. I 3 out of 5 once again. Look, with this one especially, I really want to like it, but the execution is just, I don't know. There wasn't a lot funny about this episode. It was just kind of there, bro. Good idea, but meh execution, unfortunately. And now the final 3 segments, which made up the 13th and final episode. Garfield Forget Me Not. Garfield forgets his memory. After those last few were unfortunately not consistently not good, we get another solid one. One of the best of the season, in fact. For characters forgetting their memories is another one of those overly used tropes I actually quite like. And especially with a character like Garfield, I think that still holds true. Well, this was really entertaining. I really liked that. Also, dang, John was totally thinking about just letting Garfield stay how he is for a second. Like, yeah, sure, Garfield's not always the nicest person, but come on, Garfield's not a monster. He's no, like, Eric Cartman. We need Garfield around, even if he does kick Odie off the table. Like, Odie's kind of asking for it, just living his life like that. 38, U.S. Acres, the final of the U.S. Acre ones. I like having you around. Lamela fights with her brother Bo constantly, causing Bo to leave. Lamela, realizing she cares for her brother, is sweet. But other than that, once again, it kind of feels like it's just trying to tell us a moral. 3 out of 5. And finally, the finally episode of this final, by final I mean first season, 39. Garfield, sales resistant. Garfield tries removing a salesman. It was solid. It's good. 4 out of 5. I liked it decently enough without it being anything crazy good. Alrighty, let's get into this. First up is the 2 out of 5s. U.S. Acres, The Worm Turns, and then Garfield All About Odie. Now let's get into the overwhelming amount of 3 out of 5s. With U.S. Acres, Shy Fly Guy, Garfield, Caped Avenger, U.S. Acres, Bad Sport, Garfield, Peace and Quiet, Garfield, Good Cat, Bad Cat, Garfield, Nothing to Sneeze at, Garfield, Fraidy Cat. Okay, now like a ton of U.S. Acre ones, because a lot of these U.S. Acre ones, honestly, were kind of around the same amount of quality. U.S. Acres, Wade, You're Afraid. U.S. Acres, Like Having You Around. U.S. Acres, National Tapioca Pudding Day. U.S. Acres, Unidentified Flying Gorson. U.S. Acres, Wanted Wade. U.S. Acres, Banana Nose. Garfield, Weighty Problem. Garfield, Green Thumbs Down. Garfield, Best of Breed. Garfield, Don't Move. And Garfield, School Days. Now we get to the 4 out of 5s, which also made up a lot of these episodes. Garfield the Binky Show, U.S. Acres Short Story, Garfield Good Mousekeeping, U.S. Acres Keeping Cool, U.S. Acres Return of Power Pig, Garfield Up a Tree, U.S. Acres Shell Shocked Sheldon, Garfield O to Odie, Garfield Goes Hawaiian, Garfield Sales Resistance, Garfield One Day Misery, Garfield's Cabin Fever, Garfield's Moving Experience, Garfield Box So Fun, Garfield Forget Me Not, and Garfield Magic Mata. And then with the top 3, the trio of greatness within the season, Garfield Fear Exchange, Garfield Nighty Nightmare, and Garfield Identity Crisis. Unfortunately, by one measly episode, there were more episodes in the season that were 3 out of 5 or lower compared to the 4 out of 5 or higher. But to be fair, there were 3 5s, 0 1s, and only 2 2s. So at least the highs of the season are better than the lows. But overall, I can only say I'm okay with season one. My problem is that a lot of the episodes, even when they have good ideas, the execution isn't fully there. I get that this is a kid show that was aired on Saturday mornings, and it was made well over 30 years ago. It may even be well over 35 years old now at this point. But I don't consider so. While I can't expect it to be the standard of modern cartoons, I don't care. I The Simpsons is my favorite show of all time, and it was only released a year after Garfield started. I'm still a big fan of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, and they straight up have racist stuff in there that's obviously not okay and very disgusting. I can't. So it just because it is older doesn't give it an excuse or a free pass. Besides, like I already mentioned, it's still an okay season, and there definitely is some good and even the rare great. But unfortunately, there's also a lot of meh that prevents me from thinking of the season very highly.